The first round of the 2025 NBA Draft just went down tonight, and quite frankly, that was one of the more wild rides we've experienced of any draft on draft night in recent memory. Trades happened, teams made surprising picks, and the energy was exactly what basketball fans have been waiting for. Of course, with all of the madness going down, there's a lot to review, and that's exactly what we're here to discuss in today's video. Today we'll be going through each and every one of the top 10 picks in the draft, and we'll be grading their selection based on the overall talent of the player selected, the fit on the rosters, and whether or not there were better options available instead. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount. Not only does it help out a ton, but I'd also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. Starting with the number 1 pick in the draft, the Dallas Mavericks selected Cooper Flagg, and the grade here is an A+. This is probably the only blatantly obvious selection of the night, and with everyone knowing this was going to happen for a month, there isn't really much left to say. Flagg has been the top prospect in this year's class all year long, he backed that hype up at Duke, and now he gives the Mavericks a glimmering light for the future, after a pretty crazy prior few months. Next, with the second pick in the draft, the San Antonio Spurs selected Dylan Harper, and the grade here is an A. Again, in this year's draft, the first 2 names off the board have been pretty set in stone for a while, but this one's slightly less perfect than Flagg to Dallas, hence the A instead of an A+. Ultimately, you would be irresponsible to pass on a talent like Harper here for the sake of fit, and in my opinion, when you have a top pick in the draft, you always draft for talent over fit and figure everything else out later, but it does still remain true that the Spurs are now pretty guard heavy. They just traded for De'Aaron Fox at the trade deadline last year, and as an all-star caliber player, he is going to be on the ball quite a bit this season. Rookie Stephon Castle just won the Rookie of the Year as a combo guard that defends hard, attacks the basket well, and is working hard to develop his playmaking skills at the position, and now they have Harper, who has all-star upside as a prospect for his aggressive slashing talent and his natural ability to run the offense at a high level. But it's going to be hard for all 3 of those players to see the court at the same time, so cracking that code becomes their next priority from here. Next, with the third pick in the draft, the Philadelphia 76ers selected VJ Edgecombe, and the grade here is an A-. The Sixers pick here is where the draft really began and sparked transition opportunities, and his time playing with the Bahamas national team showed he can be an aggressive slashing scorer. A team like Philadelphia needed a player that could embrace doing the little things, improve the defense in the backcourt, and potentially have star upside down the line in case they were to blow things up after another disappointing season, and Edgecombe checks a whole lot of those boxes. For me, the Sixers could have gone with Edgecombe or Kon Knueppel and gotten a strong grade based on those needs, and Edgecombe has the higher upside of the two as an athlete. Next, with the 4th pick in the draft, the Charlotte Hornets selected Kon Knueppel, and the grade here is another A. I don't have a problem with any of the first 4 picks this year, so I promise that I'm not just some naturally lenient grader with all of these A's flying around. The Charlotte Hornets have a bit of an identity crisis on their hands and are getting dangerously close to establishing a losing culture lacking in discipline. They need more players with high basketball IQ, who play smart basketball, effectively execute plays without trying to do too much, and can space the floor. The shooting guard position next to LaMelo Ball has been a glaring weakness for them, and Kon Knueppel can step right in and immediately do the dirty work as a connector of their lineup, raising the floor of those around him. He's a lethal shooter both off the catch and off the dribble. He has amazing body control, utilizing a bevy of effective fakes and feints to throw defenders off, and his footwork around the basket and touch around the basket allow him to get to the basket consistently despite lacking top-end athleticism, and he's an incredible passer too out of the pick and roll. So while some may view him as a low upside player, I not only disagree, but also see someone with one of the highest floors in the draft that impacts winning basketball games. Next, with the 5th pick in the draft, the Utah Jazz selected Ace Bailey, and the grade here is a C. I'm not going to pretend to be thrilled with any part of Ace Bailey's pre-draft process. And all of that nonsense, combined with the fact that he had very real and glaring red flags as a player going into this process, make for this pick being pretty risky, even after taking into account Ace's potential upside. Ace Bailey refused to meet with or work out for any teams before the draft, and his representation made it clear that he didn't have any interest in being drafted by any of the top 5 teams, with the Wizards, Pelicans, and Nets being his ideal landing spots. The Jazz are taking a risk drafting a guy that doesn't seem to want to be there. Now, as a player, Bailey plays the same position as Lauri Markkanen, and he's coming in wanting to take more shots per game than Markkanen because scoring the ball is the only real priority Bailey has shown. He's a great tough shot maker, but he settles for a lot of low quality looks because he doesn't have a useful enough handle to actually beat defenders off the dribble and create space to make better opportunities for himself. So unless he embraces more off-ball utilization, this is a situation worth monitoring. Next, with the 6th pick in the draft, the Washington Wizards selected Tre Johnson, and the grade here is a B+. The Wizards have drafted a lot of gritty young players over the last few years that defend hard and fast with the toughness and athleticism that can establish a culture for the future, but they're still missing a go-to scorer, and Tre Johnson could be that guy. Tre led the SEC in scoring this year as a freshman, and he did it while shooting 40% from 3 off looks mostly created for himself off the dribble. At the very least, he's someone who can heat up in a hurry from the outside and change a game with his shooting, but his struggles finishing in the paint due to his lack of strength and the fact that he's a pretty poor defender at the moment do somewhat limit his upside until he does something about it. Next, with the 7th guard in the class. If you watch his tape, you see a ridiculously creative and impressive lead ball handler who can get wherever he wants on the court with ease and has a natural sense for playmaking, but when you look at his numbers, you see someone who has a long way to go before he can consistently impact winning games. Fears has immense talent, but he desperately needs to learn to play more under control because his assist-to-turnover ratio is not very good at all, his 3-point shooting percentage is downright poor despite being a capable shot maker when he gets hot, and his scrawny frame makes him an easy target on defense, so in New Orleans, he'll have talented players around him to alleviate his role early on, but the team will need to have patience with his development. Next, with the 8th pick in the draft, the Brooklyn Nets selected Egor Demin, and the grade here is a C. I want to buy into Demin, but it's very hard for me to justify selecting him this early after the year that he just had at BYU. He entered the season expected to be a top 5 pick because he's a 6'9" primary ball handler that has tremendous passing talent for someone his size, and he runs a strong pick and roll, reading the floor well for a teenager. But over the course of the season, his weaknesses became way more glaring than initially advertised. He's not a very good shooter at all, making just 27% of his shots from deep. He struggles knocking down shots off the dribble in general, and his inability to threaten defenses from the outside made it pretty difficult for him to maximize his strengths when he became more predictable. So while the Nets are a team with a ton of flexibility moving forward, this is an upside play that just comes off as a reach in the moment. Next, with the 9th pick, the Toronto Raptors selected Colin Murray-Boyles, and the grade here is a B+. The Raptors are ready to re-emerge in the Eastern Conference playoff race, and with this pick, they were always going to be looking for a big man, and for me, they made a strong choice in Murray-Boyles checking that box. Colin Murray-Boyles is probably the best interior scoring talent in the class with excellent post skills and touch. He's an aggressive rebounder generating second chance points, and defensively, he may be the most versatile player in the entire draft. His biggest drawback is that he's very undersized for a big man at 6'7", and that, combined with his inability to shoot the ball from the outside right now, limit his upside quite a bit. But he also comes with one of the highest floors and can impact winning basketball games immediately. And finally, with the 10th pick in the draft, the Phoenix Suns selected Khaman Maluach, and the grade here is a B-. This pick could have been a higher score if the Suns didn't also make a trade 5 minutes before the selection went down, which made this pick slightly more questionable. There's no doubt that the Suns were looking for a center, but tonight they traded for Mark Williams from the Charlotte Hornets, who will come in and be the team's starting center, so to then also draft Maluach in the top 10 to play the same position makes you you think they could have used a valuable selection like this elsewhere. Maluach's physical tools and size as a bouncy 7-footer make him incredibly intriguing as a project, but he is very much just that, a project. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you thought about the top 10 picks this year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.